guys, welcome back. Thanks for joining me. Today I am going to do a review of my Tarptent Double Rainbow Lithium tent. I've had this tent for about 6 months and I've taken it out on many nights, both wild camping, backpacking, and just for campgrounds. So I feel like I'm in a position after 6 months to give you a fairly good rundown and a review of what I genuinely think of this tent. So I'll go ahead and put the specs up here for you. I'm not going to go through those, but this is made by Tarptent. They're based out of Nevada, USA, and the cost to import it does get pricey just because of the price of the tent. It is made out of a 0.51 Dyneema composite fabric, also formerly known as Cuban fiber, which makes it a waterproof tent. Now, of course, there's always going to be some ingress, possible water with seams and failures and pinholes and things like that, but generally Dyneema composite fabric, or DCF, is classed as a waterproof fabric. This means it doesn't absorb the water, it doesn't sag when it gets wet. It is generally like sleeping in a plastic bag almost. So what do I like about this tent? I like the fact that it's waterproof, I like the fact that it doesn't sag, and I like the fact that it doesn't hold water when wet. Those are some of the biggest things when it comes down to choosing DCF over sil nylon that were one of the reasons I went with this tent. And one of the other reasons I went with this tent is because of the weight. It is ridiculously light because DCF is generally a very lightweight but strong fabric. This tent, with all the guy lines, poles included, but not including the tent stakes, weighs in at 28 ounces, and I did actually measure that on my set of scales. There is also an optional liner which has another 2 ounces if you happen to live in humid places. It just kind of turns it into almost a double wall tent. So the Tarptent Double Rainbow is a 2-door, single skin, single floor tent for 2 people. It has a 50-inch floor, which actually does fit 2 pads very comfortably. I currently have my Climate Static V insulated light, which is 25-inch wide pad, and usually the dogs sleep on a 20-inch foam pad, which is what I have underneath me right now. So the 2 doors have zippers, and each mesh door has a zipper. What I like about this tent compared to the original Double Rainbow is it has this right here. It actually has another 8 inches of fabric to block breezes coming in, and also to reduce the amount of splashback from rain that comes down these doors. So what else do I like about this tent? I like how simple it is. I like how easy it is to put up. I like that it's intuitive. I like that it doesn't have any faff about it. Other tents that I thought I was going to enjoy just had too much faff. They were a pain to put up, despite how strong they were in winds. So this tent is what they call a semi-freestanding. It has 2 poles. It has this top one right here, and it also has the arch pole, which provides the structure. Now I call it semi-freestanding because if you do use trekking poles, you can put them in either end and create a freestanding tent. However, because even though it has structure, it does need to be staked out to gain full rigidity and to be able to stand up to the more intense breezes that you may come across. The tent has 6 main guy out points, but there are loops on either of the arches that will help in stronger winds. But I will tell you, this tent isn't designed to put up with 40, 50, 60 mile an hour winds. It just isn't designed that way. It isn't aerodynamic, and it doesn't have the structural support of, say, the Tarptent Stratospire. Now, I'm not a huge fan of zippers on tents. It's always the biggest failure point, but I must admit these zippers have done really well so far. They haven't failed. Tarptent uses a very high quality zipper on their tent, and I have not had any problems with them so far. They're smooth, they go up and down easily, both on the outer and on the inner. So moving on to the inside of this tent. This thing is a palace. It is honestly massive inside for a 2-person tent. It has a huge amount of headroom, and the joy of not having a trekking pole here, like right here, is a godsend sometimes, even though I do generally like trekking tents. So there's a huge amount of space. Like I said, this can fit 2 pads, 2 people very well, and you won't feel crowded. There is so much space that myself, 2 dogs, and all our gear can fit in here quite comfortably out of the rain. And these vestibules are big enough to store everything that we don't want to get, that's already wet, that we want to keep out here. There's a massive amount of space out here. And lastly, something else I love about this tent is the Porch Mode. Now, I did not bring my trekking poles, but you can set this up in Porch Mode, and I will go ahead and put a photo up to show you what it looks like with the Porch Mode, but it does enable you to cook in the rain, or, as long as it's not a massive breeze. So I think that's a really neat design feature to be able to make this usable in a rainstorm, which a lot of tents require you to cook in the vestibule. So we're sitting inside the tent, kind of blinded. This is one of the bad things about DCF. It is genuinely translucent, not transparent. You can see through it, especially if there's a light inside. It's very, very bright. It doesn't block the sun, and these tents do end up very, very warm in the sun. It's almost like sitting in a greenhouse. Now, as you can see, this is the amount of head height I have right here. I'm sitting in the middle of the tent. Now, if I shifted to the left, I'm almost touching this, but look at all this space that I would have if somebody else was sitting in this tent with me. There is a ridiculous amount of space in this tent. I would highly recommend it for 2 people, as long as you didn't have dogs and a ridiculous amount of gear. So let's get down to the nitty-gritty, and one of the biggest things that is a problem with this tent, especially for most people, is the price point. This tent retails, at least when I bought it, was $649, and that is pricey. DCF generally runs extremely pricey, and it's not as hard wearing as sil nylon or sil poly, so you have to balance that up. The waterproofness, the lightness, with how long something is going to last. Now, don't get me wrong, if you take care of your gear, it's going to last you a long time. I've heard of people who use a DCF tent for 3 through hikes. That's, you know, pretty close to over 2,000, 6,000 miles, and they're still holding up and still waterproof. Alright guys, so final conclusions, would I recommend this tent? Absolutely. If you guys have the budget, want to lighten your gear, and are looking for a quality tent, this is one I would definitely recommend. There are others out there that are just as good in a different style. Would recommend them too. I absolutely loved my Z-Pax Duplex. But after using this for 6 months, I can highly recommend this tent for 2 people. It is absolutely massive for what you're getting out of it. And if you can afford it, go for it. This is an absolutely brilliant tent. Anyway guys, thanks for watching, and we'll see you guys on the next one.